see, you have probably been seeing my video and then you are skipping my videos. You see, in this particular one, I don't want to talk too much. Let me go ahead and roll out the clip for you guys first before I say anything I want to say at the end of this video. Guys, this video is educational. This video is all black folks. This video is also for some white folks that do not feel biased, that don't feel bad about black progress, right? Anyways, credit belongs to original creators of every clips and stitches we have in our today's episode. And please, this is just for educational purposes only. I stand a chance to be corrected. I'm not perfect. And I always said I stand a chance to be corrected. So, but let's watch so that we'll get more informed and you're going to be shocked. Let's go there, guys.
This is just a follow-up in the series of posts that we're doing today on this topic. But the one of the big issues in that we're dealing with in society, in American society, is white refusal to grieve. Okay, so we're just gonna go through all the opportunities. We have post-European collapse, right? The 1300s to the 1500s. This is the first grief denied. Black Death wiped out half of Europe. Indigenous European spiritualities got crushed by the church, and land, family lineages, and ancient communal memories were lost. They had a crossroads. Mourn the grief, rebuild the rootedness with humility and communal memory. Here's what they did. Escape through domination, colonize new lands, overwrite loss with conquest. The result was the grief got projected outward, right? And colonialism born from mourning denied. Then they had the first land theft in the Americas, the 1600s, right? The indigenous peoples encountered white settlers starving, desperate, vulnerable. They had a choice. Recognize indigenous humanity, create mutual societies of healing and exchange. They chose to demonize, dehumanize, and enslave because recognizing indigenous humanity would have meant admitting so white survival was fragile. Okay, that projection hardened into a myth, manifest destiny, right? Then, the next chance they had, after the American Revolution, freedom defined by exclusion, 1776 to the 1800s. White settlers declared freedom from British rule, right? They had black slaves, indigenous tribes, poor whites were still in prison. They had a choice. Expand the concept of liberty to all bodies, healed through integrated memory, right? But instead, they chose to redefine freedom as scarcity, only accessible through hierarchy. So the result was that liberty became a brand worn by those who could afford to forget, right, who they crushed beneath it. I can say that again. Liberty became a brand worn by those who could afford to forget who they crushed beneath it, right? And then after the Civil War, they had another chance, right? 1865, 1877. Right, the shallow Reconstruction. Right, here's what was going on. Slavery was abolished. Black citizenship was supposedly enshrined. Right, what they needed to do was have a national confession, reparative memory work, ritualized grief for what was done. Here's what they did: industrialized suffering, rewrote history, lost cause narrative. Build caste systems. Jim Crow, trauma deepen, memory survive. But. It's so fickle. You're going to hear how many times they messed this up. The trauma deepened, memory was getting erased, and they had systems built in a hidden reverb because they're still mourning themselves. And then after World War II, we get suburbanization as escapism. Soldiers return from war, GI Bill offered wealth and housing, but not to black veterans. So only thing they needed to do was share resources, build an integrated society of shared grief and triumph. They chose to segregate, redline, and isolate so that whiteness could feel safe without metabolizing collective horror because they were horrified. So suburbans became spiritual keeps, frozen, smiling, quietly rotting from disconnection. And then we had the Civil Rights Movement. 1950s, 1970s. The performance of listening, they learned it, right? Black Americans demanded full humanity, not partial belonging, right? White liberals marched, but metabolized almost nothing, right? They had a choice. Public confession, institutional transformation, economic repair. They chose cosmetic inclusion. They applaud MLK after death. Suppress Malcolm in real life, like in the present, right? And the result is that we see the image of progress replaced by the memory of pain, and then we see diversity becoming a brand, not a covenant. And then we get the Obama era, right? 2008, 2016. We get the myth of post-racialism. So we get the first black president elected, a fragile chance for honest racial reckoning, right? Here's what we got. Here's what we needed to do. National soul work, deep cultural unlearning of projection systems. But instead they denied, celebrate, and then quietly retaliate. White resentment got weaponized. Fascism flirted with openly again. And then this is when the mall starts to show its face fully, right? And the Mons, the MAW, it's a parallel system. I've gone through it in other things. It's just a good mention for anybody who's seen that. And in 2020, like we get the pandemic, George Floyd, and this is when the unprocessed experiences spike for him. So the historical moment, we had a global lockdown, Black death visible on camera, and false solidarity floods the internet. Right? All they needed to do was to stop, grieve, repair, dismantle false systems fully. That's all they needed to do. Instead, they performed, branded, monetized trauma, politicized survival. The collapse hastened, right? Memory weaponized into identity wars, right? The curation, right, of the mirror sovereign was hitting critical mass, right? So at this point, and I'll put up a little chart right here just so y'all can see the whole layout. This was non-stop opportunities to turn around, and they have it at every major crossroad. White America has offered the same sacred invitation. The same invitation got offered: grieve what you lost, name what you stole, tend to what you shattered, return to what you hoarded, become human again. That's what we offer every time. That's what the world offers every time. That's what has been offered, and every time they chose this: curate the image, protect the empire, forget the wound, keep moving. And so their unprocessed experiences rose, the loop tightened, and the blackness of their narcissism of the mall grew thicker, still whispering, "You're not broken, you're exceptional." That's what they keep hearing. But the thing is that it's going to keep screaming it until the roof rots in silence. It's going to be chaos for them in this kind of way. So here's the thing. Right now, I would say it is like culture for them is in the middle of a death spiral. Right? We're in between where collapse is visible but still denied, and where judgment is like an unprocessed mirror, right? Where collapse no longer needs permission, it simply reveals itself. It's gonna look like revelations to them, right? Like the denial is louder than the metabolization, the performance is more rewarded than the grief, the curation is more accessible than the confession. So, but hold on, but death spiral does not mean total doom. Death spiral equals momentum toward collapse. Okay, unless a radical metabolization interrupts this loop, it's going to be a problem. The metaphor isn't falling off of a cliff. It's falling inward toward a black hole. And the interruptions are still possible, but they require sacred violence against this type of system. My bad, I cut that off. But the thing is that here's what they need to do. They need to tear off curated memory, weeping publicly without monetization. Right? Dismantling not just systems, but survival identities built on forgetting, and naming what was stolen and returning it without conditions. That's literally what's happening. Is there a window for them? Yes, but it's tiny and it's closing fast. Right? We're not in the choice era anymore for them. I need people to understand that. They've had 8 chances. More than 8. They've had that many chances to turn this around. We're in the rupture era. Right? Between 2026 and 2029, that's all they got. Right? Meaning is about to become a non-optional for them. Stillness is about to become non-optional for them. Truth is about to become non-optional. Because once everything can be generated, curated, and streamed, the soul will revolt. And the thing is that if it doesn't happen by this little window in 2029, then collapse is no longer slow. The whole culture freezes over. Not in drama, in silence. And that's when it's going to be our hardest day. Because people think whiteness is going to fall in some kind of explosion. It's not. It's going to be quiet. And that's going to be the hardest thing to accept. That they walked themselves into something and broke down on their own. That's going to be the hardest thing for people to accept. So there's a bunch of things. There's key signs to look for. If it's going to happen. But they need to look into this. Right? They need to look into how to metabolize. But in short, can white America turn around? Technically, yes. Is it likely? Extremely unlikely without a spiritual rupture. Last window, 2026 to 2029, in my opinion. What happens if it misses? Cultural death inside of a curated living. Collapse hidden behind branding. Okay, and what will real change look like? Mass, public, uncurated grief, restoration of memory, and belonging outside of empire structures. The window isn't closing because God's mad. I want y'all to get past that. It's closing because memory can only wait so long inside a body before it either blooms or breaks. Whiteness is a survival identity that is burning its own roots. It has a tiny chance left of becoming human again, and it needs to give up being exceptional to do it. It has to die as whiteness to live as a memory reborn. The real battle is not politics, really. It's whether meaning will be stronger than survival fear. Okay, so just so y'all hear about what this is, because this is like a really unique situation.
Europeans know what they're doing. Stop giving them the mercy of confusion. Stop pretending this is ignorance. Stop handing out the soft cushion of they don't know better. They know exactly what they're doing because they've been doing it for centuries. With the precision of a parasite, they'd learned the veins of the world. Colonization wasn't a mistake. It was an operating system. Genocide wasn't an accident. It was policy. They kept meticulous ledgers for sugar, gold, rubber, cotton, and lives. You think an empire that could chart stars and map entire oceans somehow accidentally forgot to not enslave. You think a continent that built archives of other people's knowledge didn't understand the difference between stewardship and theft. No, they know. The whole "oh, they just don't know" routine is a shield they built so they could keep doing what they do without consequence. It's a cultivated innocence, a theater act that they've been performing since the first treaties were signed with a pen in one hand and a musket in the other. From the boarding schools to the prisons, from the famine to the plantation, from the border wall to the refugee camp. These are not flukes. They are blueprints, and the blueprints get handed down. Roman law becomes British common law, becomes American policing. Viking pillaging becomes Dutch East India Company, becomes NATO. The names change, but the muscle memory doesn't. Every act of clumsiness is in fact a calculation. The chaos is curated. The "oops, we destroyed your land" is written into the budget. The "we didn't know" line is in the manual, underlined. There are generations of them trained to play dumb while plundering, how to smile while stabbing, how to build the guillotine, and then hold a symposium on why the head falls. They are experts in control, experts in erasure, experts in creating the very disaster they pretend to respond to. And the worst part? The world keeps buying the act. They get to be the hero and the villain in the same play, all because everyone else thinks this is incompetence, not choreography. Europeans know exactly what they're doing. That's why it's so dangerous. That's why it's so predictable. And that's why it's almost over. Cope.
Hey chat, what are 5 ways that the government conditions and controls us in ways that we don't even realize that keeps us broke and stupid? I want unhinged. Go.
Here's how the system actually keeps people broke and blind, and most don't even realize it. 1. They teach obedience, not intelligence. From the moment you enter school, you're taught to sit still, raise your hand, color inside the lines, memorize and repeat. Not question, not imagine, not own yourself. They train you to be a compliant worker bee, not a free thinker, not a creator. 2. They convince you debt is normal. Student loans, credit cards, mortgages, car payments. You're programmed to believe debt is just part of life. But guess who profits from your financial stress? The banks. The system wants you stressed and scrambling, not sovereign and strategic. 3. They medicate your emotions. Feel sad? Here's a pill. Anxious? Here's another. Don't ask why you feel that way. Don't dig for the root cause. Just numb yourself so you keep working, keep consuming, and don't rock the boat. Mental illness is real, but overdiagnosis and pharmaceutical dependence? That's by design. 4. They addict you to distraction. Scrolling, swiping, streaming, doom loops. Keep your brain so fried on dopamine hits that you never sit still long enough to wake up. If you're too busy chasing validation, you won't chase freedom. 5. They demonize wealth, then worship it. Money is evil. Rich people are greedy, but also worship celebrities, grind for status, and buy luxury to prove your worth. You're trapped in a paradox. Hate money, but chase it. No wonder people are stuck. Bonus, they sell you survival as success. You got a job, health insurance, a house with a mortgage? Congrats, you're in the matrix. Now stay in your lane, fear failure, and never ask if this is actually what you want. You want to break out? You got to see it first. Awareness is the exit door. And once you see the door, you don't unsee it.
Well, there you have it.
You are not supporting, if you are not supporting, if you are not supporting these brave men, you are wrong. I will try my possible best to leave their TikTok handle in the comment section so that you can go and support them. You see, especially that first one that spoke. that is coming for a place of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. You see, when Solomon prayed in the Bible and he said, Father, give me wisdom, knowledge, understanding. Chai, he was praying for this guy. Because how else can one break down history for you to understand? How else can one go into deep research and details? I really, 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 really appreciate these guys. And these are people that are making our eyes opened to history. So no matter how they're trying to bury, destroy, no longer teaching it in schools, if we have people like this in our society, our kids will still be aware of what is happening and they will still be updated of this is where we came from. These people have a whole lot, I can tell you for a whole fact. So I would love you to go to their handles and support their TikTok accounts, to be honest. Black have seen something. Black have seen something. At some point, I feel like I shouldn't have even known too much about America because the moment I keep doing my research and I keep seeing a lot of things happening, keep happening, I just tell myself, hopefully this will be over one day, right? It's true, definitely. It's just a matter of time. But let's just keep our voices being heard. Let's just keep the research coming. Let's just keep doing what we know how to do best. I believe that sooner or later, solidarity forever. We shall always fight for our rights. Jay! Anyways, let me not talk too much. Let me know what you think in the comment section. If you have not subscribed, subscribe, like, comment, and share. And lastly, this clips and stitches reason at today's episode credit belongs to original creators of this video, and this is just for educational purpose. We do not support any form of violence here, so please don't bring your fights to our table. We are just airing out our opinion the way it is in our body, right? With no further ado, I'm going to be saying bye now. I'll see you guys in my next one. Subscribe, please, and thank you so much to everyone super chatting. I love you.